Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I'd like to direct my question first to Matt Seaholm because I thought that Chairman in waiting, Kathy McMorris Rogers, raised some good points because of the problem we should have learned through COVID, that we need more plastics, not less. So, Matt, on these questions, there are two of the bills impose a 3-year moratorium on permits for plastic facilities, and that's to allow the EPA to develop environmental air quality standards. Now, we fully respect after 3 years of developing this, and we know it'll take 3 years to develop those, then they're going to go through a series of litigation. They always have. And then after the litigation's resolved, then we're going to move over to where actually these plastic manufacturers will have to have design and construct those facilities. So we could have a prolonged period of time. So my question is, how long do you think this pause could actually last?
Well, thank you for the question. That's certainly our biggest concern. It's considered a temporary pause, but because of the way it is written, there's no, for certain end date for that pause. In the meantime, we've got members who have to apply for permits every 5 years, and any expansion or new component of their facilities could trigger this temporary pause and ultimately result in potentially shutdowns or simply moving production to a different place. And that was one of the points that I made is that the moratorium is more likely to push production elsewhere than it is to actually stop the production of plastic.
Thank you. Now, the other is that I'm told that that at least 60 to 70% of the rules that were promulgated by the EPA under Obama have been overturned in the courts. And just this morning, the Supreme Court just did it again, said that the overreach under the Obama administration with the Clean Air Act needed to be revisited and turned back the Clean Power Plan. So, Matt, by imposing this de facto ban, is this just another example of the EPA overreach?
Well, I'll let you make that determination. But once again, our concern here is the incredible number of jobs that it does threaten. But most importantly, the supply chains. The point I made about shifting these supply chains elsewhere, I think, has been exposed in recent months. In particular, as we've identified the need to have supply chains that are domestic. If you take this plastic production and put it elsewhere and you put it in a place where we don't have easy access to it, it will send ripples through the entire system. And I think at this point we can recognize that the vast majority of manufactured products do use plastic in some way, shape, or form.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Johnson, I got two questions for you. Maybe it's just a yes or no. And do you think we can legislate change human behavior and how they handle recycling?
Well, I think that the Recycle Act that was passed within the large infrastructure bill provides great education to the American people to understand what to put in the bin and what not to put into the bin. So, in that regard, I think it provides provides the necessary education for them to recycle efficiently to keep the contamination out of the recycling stream to begin with.
I appreciate your answer. I think but you're not, my question really was, I'm afraid we're once again, trying to change human behavior by legislation. And that's what I think that a lot of the recycling, I think there needs to be more, I think, free market-based change. But let's go back to rural communities that don't have these facilities, looking at one of the legislation that I've co-sponsored. Is it, will this, if we don't have these facilities, and yet we impose more stringent recycling, is it going to raise the cost of living for people in rural areas around this country?
Well, I think the bill that you have sponsored is a great bill to try out different approaches in different areas. Because one size does not fit all in the United States. So I commend you for the bill. Some of the ideas or concepts like the extended producer responsibility would increase the costs to the American consumer.
Okay, let me just, in closing, I've run out of my time, Mr. Chairman, but I do hope that Mr. Seaholm will get back to us, because I'd like to know from his members what advances have been made in biodegradable plastics, because we talked about that 2 years ago. If someone could give us an update on the progress we're making on that. Thank you, and I yield back to any time.
Okay, yeah, the gentleman yields back. The chair now recognizes Representative Pallone, full committee chair, for 5 minutes to ask questions, please.